If you're a leader, there's a side effect you need to know about. Leadership makes you louder. Okay, that's not exactly what I meant, but in this episode, I'll tell you 3 ways leadership amplifies you, what's good and bad about each way, and 3 questions you can ask to use this amplification to build stronger leadership. A few years ago, early in my time as president and CEO, I walked into one of our facilities. It was the same place I'd been 100 times before. Same people, same me. One of the foremen told me that the crews would love it if I would stay around and watch them finish a particular job. I told him I'd be happy to, but honestly, I'd seen them do it many times before. And he looked at me and said, "Yeah, but now you're the CEO." I had to stop and really think about that one, because what he was really saying was, your approval means something different now. Same person with a new title, completely different impact. That's when I realized this concept. Leadership doesn't make you more important, it makes you louder. So what does this really mean? When you step into leadership, people start paying closer attention to you, whether you ask them to or not. What you do matters more. What you say carries more weight. Even what you seem to care about gets noticed. It happens because most people don't have the full picture that you do, and they don't want to get it wrong. So they watch leaders for clues. That's why a casual comment you might make can really blow up, or a question you might ask can feel like an interrogation. And here's the kicker. Your silence can feel like disapproval. You become a signal, whether you mean to or not. Not because people are dramatic, but because being wrong around leaders feels costly. So, the first thing leadership amplifies is what you do. For example, think about your presence. When you're a leader, your visibility gets interpreted as, hey, we matter. And your absence gets interpreted too, not always in a bad way either. For example, if you've delegated things to others, sometimes your absence says that you trust them and don't feel like you have to oversee everything. But too much absence says you don't care. Just showing up sends a signal. Not showing up sends one as well. When you know this, you can make sure you're sending the right signal with your presence or absence. Presence does not mean hovering, and you have to be mindful about popping in randomly. It doesn't always land well. Presence is definitely not a surprise inspection disguised as leadership. Healthy presence is predictable. People know when they can expect to see you because you show up consistently. People know how they can get time with you. That's important. Unhealthy presence, on the other hand, shows up in the form of unexpected drop-ins, drive-by comments, or only showing up when something's wrong. One builds trust, the other builds anxiety. But the great thing is that when you build trust, it doesn't create as much anxiety when you do show up unexpectedly. It helps if people know you don't only show up when something's wrong. In fact, that type of presence should be the exception and not the rule. A simple way to think about this is to ask, by showing up, am I reducing anxiety or adding to it? And be honest with yourself. And when you are present, ask more than you inspect. Learn, don't lecture. Take an interest in people and what they're doing. Remember, people don't just watch what you do, they watch what you choose to notice. The second thing leadership amplifies is what you say. And this is where a lot of good leaders get tripped up. You might be thinking out loud, but they think you just assigned work. You think you're brainstorming, but they think you made a decision. And it's tempting to say, well, why didn't they just ask me to clarify? Well, they don't want to look slow or challenge the boss or waste your time, especially if the trust hasn't been built. So instead of asking you, they try to interpret. That means that the responsibility shifts to you. As a leader, you have to be clearer than you might feel necessary. If you're just thinking out loud, say it clearly and make sure they understand you're not giving an assignment. Unless you are. In that case, be very clear about the decision and the assignment. Don't assume people will automatically understand what you're asking. Be extremely clear. Clear communication is vitally important. That kind of clarity doesn't slow teams down. It actually speeds things up because it prevents rework and rumors and frustration. And let me say a quick word about humor. You don't need to stop being human as a leader, but you must recognize that humor lands differently when your words carry more weight. If you jokingly criticize someone, it may not be received as a joke, even if they laugh. You may be planting a seed of doubt that will ultimately damage your culture. Self-deprecating humor usually lands fine, but jokes about other people or their work, now that's high risk. And be very careful about jokes and sarcasm. That's a particular trap for me. If there's any doubt, leave it out. So the first thing leadership amplifies is what you do. The second thing is what you say. Now, this third thing that leadership amplifies is the one we least like to talk about. Leadership amplifies what you want. Leadership doesn't just amplify influence, it amplifies appetite. This was a hard one for me to admit, but once I recognized it, I was able to guard against it. With greater positions of authority come greater recognition, control, and visibility. Often you're in greater demand. I'm not saying that you're a bad person, just know that as a person with more authority, it's understandable to feel good when you receive the attention often associated with it. Simply recognize this as a potential trap, as I did, and take steps to guard against an unhealthy drive for more. Some of the warning signs I've seen, both in others and in myself, are always needing the last word, or taking more credit than you should, getting irritated when others lead, or overpowering people with your solution. Or how about using others to build yourself up rather than adding value to them? You don't fix that with fake humility. You manage it with guardrails. One guardrail I found helpful is deliberate restraint. I would choose not to use my authority even when I could. And here are some of the ways you can try this. Speak last instead of first. Often, by speaking first, you shut down conversation. You might let somebody else's solution stand. You could say, let's go with your idea and I'll support it. You can't do this for everything, but try it where you can. That kind of interaction goes a long way to building a trusting culture in your leadership team. Your team will see that you're not just trying to be the all-knowing emperor. The second guardrail against out-of-control ambitions is having a truth teller. For me, I was fortunate to have an executive leader on my team who could and would tell me the hard truth. We had a very high level of trust, and I valued that. That was my stabilizer. Everyone needs one. What I found is that if you don't manage your ego will manage and might even cost your leadership. Okay, before I wrap this up, I need to talk about the flip side. I've seen leaders overestimate their impact, thinking one speech or one moment changes culture for the better. It doesn't. You can tear culture down with a single bad moment, but you can't build it that way. Culture changes through repetition, consistent activity over time. Leadership amplifies the work, but it doesn't replace it. So here's the simple framework underneath all this. Leadership amplifies what you do, what you say, and what you want. Here's how you can use this framework to build a stronger leadership. Pick one of these areas, what you say, what you do, what you want, and intentionally improve it this week by asking one of these questions. Number 1, where does my presence or absence speak the loudest? Is it good or bad? Choose an action you can take to build somebody up by showing up. Number 2, what did I say this week that could be misunderstood? Then decide how you'll clarify it. And do it proactively. Don't wait for something to happen, then react to it. Number 3, ask yourself, am I craving impact or applause? Do I want what's best for others, or am I looking for recognition myself? Remember, leadership is an amplifier that doesn't make you more important. It makes you more impactful. Use it wisely, and you'll magnify your influence. I hope this helps today. If you find value in these lessons, hit like and subscribe so you can be notified when the next episode goes live. And let me know in the comments if there are topics you'd like to see discussed on future episodes. As always, thanks for watching, and remember, effective leadership doesn't happen by accident, it's intentional.